waterloop.
Welcome to Waterloop, the podcast that explores solutions for sustainability and equity in water. I'm Travis Loop, co-host for this episode.
And I'm co-host Jose Aranda. This episode is part of the Color of Water series, which features interviews with diverse experts from communities across the country.
This is episode number 233, Cultivating Future Water Leaders in Colorado. As the need for sustainable water management becomes increasingly critical, developing the next generation of leaders is paramount. One promising solution is the Colorado Water Fellows Program, which connects students with water issues and equips them with practical experience. In this episode, Jessica Thrasher, Water Equity Programs Leader at the Colorado Water Center, discusses bringing together students from various majors to gain a holistic understanding of water management. She highlights the importance of diversity in backgrounds and perspectives in addressing water challenges and the role of hands-on experiences and internships in preparing students for careers in the water sector. Jessica also covers the program's expansion and its contributions to a more equitable and informed water workforce. Jessica, we are so glad to have you here for this episode. You are a member of the Color of Water Directory and bring so much perspective. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Excited to be here.
So Colorado is in the water news all the time and the Colorado River. So you've got a very busy state there. You're involved in this Colorado Water Fellows Program. Could you talk about that, what it is, and what kind of activities you do?
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited about this program. It started off at Colorado State University, and it was to connect students to issues in water. So we meet once a month. It's an academic year-long program, and we bring in a variety of water experts. So we talk about agriculture and water law and water quality, and really want to give students a holistic perspective of the water, of what we're viewing and what we're having happen right now in the water field. And so the cohorts are really special because it is anyone from any major can participate. This year, we had undergraduate and graduate students, and we bring these folks together. We had 15 different majors participate this year, which was really exciting because not only are they learning from us, they're learning from each other. And then the students also, they get a stipend to participate, so that doesn't hurt, helping to recruit students. And so they get their stipend, they connect with water experts. They also get to attend water conferences for free. And we're really intentional about the conferences, so it's not just attending the conference. It's also being an active participant. This past year, they were able to attend the Colorado Water Conference, the Colorado Water Congress, and be able to sit on panels and introduce panels as well. So, and additionally, the final piece is connecting students to internships to get that hands-on experience in water, because learning about water academically and then being able to see how water experts and water professionals actually projects that they do in water hands-on is much different. So this is a really special program that we can bring students to expand their academic knowledge into that practical water experience, but also really developing the next generation of water leaders. So it benefits the students, but it also benefits the water industry as a whole.
15 different majors, that really jumped out at me. That's so cool that students from these different parts of water are different parts of the university, right? Different parts of academia kind of have some draw or some thread to water. That's really cool.
When we started the first class, when we had the new cohort, we went around and said, what is important to you about water? What's your water story? And every single person had this deep connection to water because, I feel so privileged to work in a field that impacts every single person and being on this planet. And so by hearing how, yes, we look at water differently, we have different academic backgrounds, we have different experiences, but water connects us all.
And that's really important too, because there's a kind of like a sort of like a change of guard in the water field, where a lot of people in the water sector are, getting closer to retirement. And so it's really important to think about what you said, the next generation of water leaders, and how to diversify the workforce. So how do you think about that? How is this fellowship program connected to diversifying the workforce, and why is that important?
Yes, this program is really special because it brings together students from all these different majors. I mentioned before, 15 different majors were a part of this program this year, which is just incredible. When recruiting students, I say you don't have to be in a field that has water in the title, like in a major. So we had sociology majors, we had anthropology majors, we had civil engineering, which is what you would expect, right? But letting students know that no matter what major they're in, no matter what career they're in, they will be impacted by water. So by bringing that connection, by having people understand that they too can be a part of the future of water, whether it's in their career or just as a community member, having that knowledge about where their water comes from, how vitally important it is, who should be a part of that conversation. These are all things that we talk about in the course of the year. And we also want to make sure that the students who are a part of these programs, these are our future water leaders. So we need to make sure that they have this holistic understanding of water. We want to make sure that they have different backgrounds, yes, perspectives. Where are they from? Where is their community from? Because they all bring that potentially academic knowledge, but they all have that very personal connection to water and their experiences within it to bring to this conversation to share. So it is vital as we move forward with shaping our water future to have people have that understanding and that background that we can't do things the same way as before. We need people to question. We need people to ask, why are we doing things this way? Could we do it better? And having the courage and the background to say, my knowledge is valuable. I have this deep connection to water and to my community, and I can be a part of this conversation going forward.
And as the water sector changes and continues to change, it needs people with those different perspectives and those different like expertises and academic backgrounds, right? Not just the engineers. We love them, but we need people that have different viewpoints of all kinds. As it's evolving. So that's awesome. I'm going to remember that 15 majors thing for a while. So what are some of the cool success stories or great little examples that you have seen during your time leading this? Whether they're large or small.
We attended the Colorado Water Congress in January. It's one of the largest water conferences in Colorado. And I really wanted it this year to be intentional, not just students attending the conference, but being an active part of it, so that they felt like they were a part of this really big conversation. So I worked with the Colorado Water Congress. I serve on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. And we had several panels set aside for just students. There was one panel that was just water fellows, which was amazing, standing room only. And in this panel. And then they also introduced all of the concurrent sessions. So there were about 16 concurrent sessions total throughout the conference that had a water fellow introduce them. At the conference, I had one of my students come to me and say, hey, I introduced on the first day. On the second day, I had people come up to me and say, I heard you introduce the panel. Could you tell me more about your background? What do you want to do afterwards? Let's talk more about your future in water. And so that same student told me that because she participated in the Water Fellows program, she had more of this holistic understanding of water, and she was able to get a job in the water industry that wasn't like her specific major. And I'd heard stories like that where employers are paying attention. The Water Fellows program is gaining, I would say, a positive reputation, where employers are like, hey, if you're a water fellow, we are interested in what you have to say. And so it's benefiting the students because you could feel their presence there. We had 20 students there at the conference. And so it really shifted the dynamic of the conference in general, and then also created all of these separate side opportunities for students. So they listed that as one of their favorite things. Additionally, they got to attend Water in the West Symposium, which is held at CSU Spur, which is in Denver. It has a building called Hydro. So it's my favorite building. I can't, all about water. It's pretty exciting. And at this particular conference, they got to report a spontaneous podcast. 4 of my water fellows were just selected, and they said, would you be interested in recording a podcast about what gives you hope about the future of water? They did amazing. These students have a lot to say. They have a lot of knowledge and insights, and I think that's something that's really exciting and important that's come out of this program is let's listen. Let's listen to what people have to say, what these future water leaders, because we're better with them. Almost every student said on their exit survey was, yes, the conferences, yes, the networking, but also the community they created inside the cohort. They got to meet students who are working on different aspects of water. They created friendships and relationships among students who have a shared passion for water. What came out of that was, hey, do you want to come work with me on this water project? I'm a graduate student. I'll pay you to come participate. Some students didn't know graduate school might be an option for them. Now they're interested.
That's amazing. I think we need more of that. We always need experienced voices, but we also need fresh new voices, and we need that dialogue in so many places, really. But that reminded me that's how I landed my first job in the water space, is through a connection at a conference. And so getting that exposure, to all kinds of different, experts and representatives and just stakeholders in the water space. And at the same time, what you said, just making connections with your peers. Some of those connections, can last a lifetime, and you keep track of each other, and you have friends basically in the water space. So that's amazing. I'm wondering how is this program or initiative being expanded throughout the state or beyond the state of Colorado?
Great question and great timing. So the Colorado Water Fellows program really got a lot of visibility, especially at this recent conference. So we were talking to other institutions, academic institutions, and started having this interest in how could we have that program at our schools as well. So I applied for a grant from the Colorado Water Conservation Board and received funding to do a 2-year pilot program, expanding from the CSU Water Fellows program to the Colorado Water Fellows program. We're now partnering with DU Law, CU Boulder, Metro State University Denver, the One World, One Water Center, Fort Lewis, and Colorado Mesa colleges. And so we're all across the state, and that is launching this August. The expanded program will be reaching an additional 50 students over the next 2 years. And that's not including the students at CSU, which we hope will be 20 a year. So we're looking at an additional 90 students over the next 2 years who will be able to go through this program. When thinking about what this could look like at the statewide level, we didn't want to just mandate what every program would look like. We didn't want them all to be the same, because we're not the same. And each individual university and institution would be able to then have their own program match the needs of their community. So the topics, the presenters, what would students really resonate with in their own areas. But we're coming together as a group. So we are, in addition to having the funding to launch these programs at each institution, we're also gathering this cohort, not cohort necessarily, but this group of institutions to talk about what's working well. What are the challenges? How can we work together to solve them? Let's do shared marketing. Let's do shared applications to make it easier. Why recreate the wheel? Let's cut down the work by sharing what we're doing. What programs are happening at these other institutions that we could have at ours? How can we share those resources? So, for example, we're thinking maybe having a webinar series where not each of us are tapping the same water experts over and over. Maybe we just have those open opportunities for all students to participate in. So it's really challenging the assumptions and also expanding and empowering all of us to come together and work together instead of it being like, each institution for themselves and trying to be in competition for the same funding, So by having these regional collaboratives, I think it's really helping the program overall and really benefiting the students by having this huge, tremendous knowledge, from all of these other institutions working together. And then additionally, we will have a career fair every year. And this will be in late February, maybe early March this year, where it's like a water career fair. I hadn't been to one before, but the Colorado Water Center launched the first one this past year, and it was a tremendous success. Students were able just to walk up to an employer and they were like, here's our jobs and internships. It's amazing, right? And then additionally, we're going to connect that to an annual Water Fellow education event. So we'll be there for the career fair, but then we'll also have students and representatives from all of the different Water Fellows programs and institutions building what that education event will look like. So having me just create it, maybe the students don't want to learn what the topic areas that I had selected. So by having the students actively plan and participate this kind of learning environment, maybe it's a presentation from students. Maybe it is how to write a resume. It really will be guided by those students and institutions. So it's an incredible opportunity to expand the impact across the state. I'm hoping it doesn't stop here. And I really see that this sort of program can be replicated nationwide because each institution can guide their own program. And what if we were able to have a nationwide program, but then have like leaders in each state and have this working group together? So that is my hope, is that this can grow beyond Colorado. I don't dream small. I think that there's a lot that we can do together, and I think this is just the start.
I love that you have some of the topics and everything really student driven, right? What's on their minds? What's in their worlds? What are the issues they're hearing about? That's very cool. I know that one of the big issues these days is the idea of water equity. So I imagine that's something that young people are very tuned into. And I'm curious if that's the case, if that's something that's coming up from them, if that's something they're interested in, and how they view that phrase.
A lot of people, not only just students, but a lot of people don't know what water equity is. And so water equity, you've been using the U.S. Water Alliance definition, and that is enabling safe, affordable, clean drinking water and wastewater services for everyone, resilient in the face of climate change, having community members be an active participant in water management planning and decisions, and then also having them benefit from the different types of, let's say that there's a lead replacement line and you need to hire a contractor. That contractor could be from the community instead of external to the community. So having them benefit from the changes in these systems as well. So the first piece is just definitions, but students really want to know that they are making a difference. So for employers, I think it's really vital to make that connection for students, and not just students. Me too. I want to know that I'm making a difference and the work that I do matters. And so by connecting that to folks, by not just saying, hey, we need to go update this spreadsheet, by saying, by updating this spreadsheet, this is going to have X impact, and so as more and more students, as more and more people have an understanding of what water equity is, because it is pretty vast and it encompasses a lot of different things, that they can better understand how vital that is to include in future water planning. So it is, yes, we have a shortage of water. What does that mean for the communities we serve? And how can we make sure that the people who are low income, that are historically marginalized or disproportionately impacted, that they are taken into consideration and they're central to what those solutions look like moving forward?
That's really, I think, a huge change in the mindset, right? Is we're moving toward this more interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach to water management that brings other backgrounds and perspectives. And then people in the workforce are more connected to what's the purpose, what's the difference that we're making, and how is this helping to make a more equitable, a more just world. And that's just, I feel like, a reflection of the needs of our times. Is We have pressing issues. So I'm wondering, what advice or lessons would you share with others from your experience in this program and beyond?
Yeah, you're talking about going nationwide, Jessica. So we need all your wisdom to be shared.
This program, I would say that students are eager to learn. They want to be a part of those hands-on experiences. There's a difference between academic learning and then hands-on learning. And so one of the first things we did was a water field trip. Brand new cohort. We went out to the Poudre River and we had this great presentation from the city of Fort Collins, and we just got in the river. There are multiple students who hadn't been to the river. The river runs right through Fort Collins. And it's like, we have to be able to go out and touch the water, see the water, be near the water. Because if you separate it, then we don't know what we're protecting, So having that vital connection to what's happening in our communities is crucial. And as water professionals, I think sometimes we don't spend enough time on the water ourselves, that we need to be reminded what we are protecting, and to know that having, what were our original stories? Why did we get into water? And what inspired us to go into this path? So sharing that with students is really critical. So for example, my background's in anthropology. And what I love about water, it was like a lightning bolt for me in one class that I was in my master's program. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to change the world in some way. And so I sat there, and all of a sudden it was like, it's water. And I grew up by the ocean, and I always had this deep appreciation for the power of water. But then when I moved to Colorado, I was from Texas. I moved to Colorado, and water is different here. But I always seek out water wherever I go. I want to be next to water. It's very peaceful for me. And it's deeply rooted in who I am. And so when I talk to students and they're like, well, how are you a career professional in water and your background's in anthropology? Like, how does that even connect? And so I'm always excited to tell them that for me, it's because it's always the people. People drink water. And so we need folks who are connected to community in order to be able to take the best practices, the newest technologies, and then work with communities to say, like, well, what issues do they have? What issues are they concerned about? How can we work together? And instead of it being a one way, like, here's the best practice, this is what you need, how can we talk to communities to say, how can we best serve your needs? How can we co-create this together? And so I love creating toolkits and handouts, and education is so powerful that even though my background is in anthropology, I have this deep, deep connection to water. To your point, Jose, about it being very interdisciplinary and how we need to have all of those different voices. We also need the technical side. I can't build the water infrastructure. That's not my background. But I can provide insights on how might we reach out to community, engage with community about that process to make sure that their needs are met when doing these huge infrastructure changes. So as we're moving forward to hopefully put the Colorado or the Water Fellows program nationwide, I would say connect with other institutions, see what programs already exist. Let's not create things from scratch. Let's see how we can come together to share knowledge. Yes, water is very specific, but also there's a lot that can be, that is applicable no matter where you are, so let's talk about how we can do that together. What certification? So as an industry, let's say if you're an employer, what water certification would you value? How can we create those certifications or get those in the hands of the students participating? And students just really want to be connected to those hands-on experiences. So employers, internships, paid internships, and those connections between universities and employers. I've heard a lot lately, we don't know how to reach students. Great. Let's solve that problem together. Let's get those internships in front of students. They're amazing, and they will bring a huge, tremendous asset to your organization. And so really, it's just for me and for this program, it's about bringing people together. Not one of us can do this alone. Similar to solving our water challenges, we need to come together as a community to see, how can we work together? How can we pool our resources? And how can we best benefit our water management moving forward? And then also making sure we have the people in place who will be making those decisions after us.
Well, it sounds like you are definitely helping to drive that very last piece there. A lot of those pieces, but especially that last piece, putting so many students through this program there, sending them out into the water world to do good things. So, Jessica, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your partnership and love being a part of the Color of Water network. And I'm an avid watcher of Waterloop. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Or in the water loop.